Before we begin today's episode, I want to offer a gentle content warning. In this conversation with my friend Amber, you'll hear about some heavy and real experiences, including drug addiction and suicide. These parts of her story may be difficult or triggering for some listeners. If that's you, please take care of your heart and listen when and if you're ready. At the same time, I encourage you to stay with us if you can, because Amber's testimony is ultimately one of hope, redemption, and how God brings light into the darkest places. Welcome to Miracles in the Madness, where faith meets the chaos. I'm your host, Ashton Keever, and together we'll explore stories, Bible truths, and encouragement for women living in the beautiful, messy life God has called them to. Each week, we'll dive into real-life testimonies, practical encouragement, and Bible insights to help you walk faithfully through the everyday madness. Come join me. Welcome back to Miracles in the Madness. I'm your host, Ashton, and today I am sitting here with my good friend, Amber. I met her at my church, and Amber has had a very interesting, amazing life. And I just really thought it would be a cool time to have her come on and share her story with us and share a little bit more about um, how God's pulled her through it all. And so, a little bit about Amber. She has a lot of experience with a lot of different things and a lot of different people.
Yeah.
She has been in the military. She's worked in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
She is a parent and
Yes.
also the host of the Into the Weeds podcast,
Yes.
along with her daughter, I
Yes.
believe. Yeah. And so, Amber, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
So, I guess just to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I am from Lawton, Oklahoma. It's a military town. So I kind of grew up in I say a utopian situation where I was around many cultures, many ethnicities, and just around a bunch of different people. And so I learned how to navigate people and situations as people just being humans
Yeah.
and nothing different than them than each other, except for the fact that these people eat this certain kind of food and these other
Yeah.
people eat a different kind of food. You know, is basically how we broke it down as kids.
I love that. I love that. So I was raised in small town Missouri. So that means there wasn't a lot of color or differing opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And so college was a little bit of a shock for me.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
So very much the opposite of kind of your experience there,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like. So I I want you to tell us your testimony. As I've said on the show before, I think this is a really wonderful way for us as Christians to get to know each other and get to know our history, what God has pulled us through, and really just as humans get to know each other. And I think as a parent too, you're going to have a lot of interesting wisdom to share with this audience through your
Probably.
even just through your story and how your parents were like
Mm-hmm.
ways to grow and things like that. So
Okay.
take it away.
Well, so I was born a very sick child. I was 3 pounds, 12 ounces. I would stop breathing in the middle of the night. And I was born to a mother who was put in a children's home. I'm not even sure how old she was, but she was beaten by her mother. And so she was taken out of her home. And so were some of her siblings. And so my mother lived in Whitaker's Children's Home in Pryor, Oklahoma, which at that time was supposed to be an all-white children's home. Now, they didn't actually abide by that, but that's what on the books, what it says it is. My mom actually ended up having her two best friends was a girl named Frida, who was black, and then a girl named Eva Jo Redbone, who was Indian, or Native American now, as we say. But even the natives in Oklahoma called themselves Indian. So, and I'm sure they still do to this day, but I guess the politically correct thing to say is Native American.
Yeah.
So, but my mom ran away at 16, and she met my father, who was he was 23, and he was around my aunt, and so they met and got married, and then my mom had me when she was about 19. So, but my mom and dad were both drug addicts, specifically more meth, I think, especially for my mother. And then for my dad, I know he used methamphetamines, but I also believe that he was doing other stuff. I'm just not sure what.
Yeah.
I would imagine cocaine and things like that. He was a truck driver, so and my mom was an upholsterer, so she would do like couches, church pews, cars. She actually did a really uh, good job on my husband's 51 Studebaker that he used to have. And somewhere I'll find some pictures of it, but she did a really good job on it. So, yeah, I was raised to by two drug addicts, and they were for the most part functioning drug addicts, though, because my dad had always had a really good job, either as a truck driver or as a like in the office of a trucking company. So my parents were together until I was about 6 or 7, I wanna say. I don't really remember the timeline exactly. And, then they got divorced. Well, they didn't get divorced, they just got separated. And my dad went to go live in Northwest Arkansas, and my mom stayed in the house that they had bought. And, yeah, then it became, pretty bad. Before then, we would get new clothes and, had a full refrigerator, had HBO on the TV and all that stuff, and then when dad left, mom didn't have anything, and so, we were on food stamps and commodities, and do you know what commodities is?
Was it like supplemental income?
Yeah, it's like, government cheese, government milk, stuff like that, government peanut butter. Uh, now you can have a really good, grilled cheese sandwich with a government cheese, but,
I have heard this, and it's not just from you. That's
yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, so, they make really good grilled cheese sandwiches, but, that's how I grew up for, yeah, for most of my life. Well, I guess I would say, so my stepdad came into our life when I was about 8, and, and then my stepmom came in around the same time, maybe a little bit before. My stepmom was a very angry person with a lot of control issues.
Okay.
And because my dad went from like chaos of my mom to my stepmom, who was like very controlling, knew what was going to happen every day, that kind of thing. And I guess that was good for him. Wasn't so great for me sometimes, because she was very hateful. She took the joy out of our life.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, because she did teach me some good things and everything, but for the most part, it was very hard. And my stepdad, though, he was a wizard,
Oh.
and I say that because that's what he called himself. So he was actually in the military. He was, I believe, he got up to master sergeant or something like that. I can't really remember at the time or at the moment, but he he was a paratrooper. I found out also that he was guarding presidents and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I found out some interesting things about him, but I only recently found those out. But he had a daughter and a son, and they are half Korean, and
Mhm.
so they were in my life from an early age, so they became my brother and my sister.
Mhm.
I actually have, or I had a brother who was my natural brother, and he was actually really amazing, but he passed away in 2013 from cancer at the age
Mm.
of 30.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so but I also have 3 stepsisters on from my stepmother, and so I have a very big blended family. Plus, my mom was one of 9 children, and my dad was one of 5. So I've got a lot of cousins, and yeah, so I grew up uh, in the presence of a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
My stepdad, like I said, was a wizard, so it was not uncommon for me to wake up in the morning or come home from school, and our dining room table would be, full of the tarot cards or the ruins or astrological charts,
Mm.
and either him sitting there by himself or with an uncle, or like 10 Korean ladies sitting around the
Wow.
table,
Mhm.
and then other ones sitting in the living room waiting for their turn. So I had a lot of people in my house a lot. My stepdad, actually, I don't believe he did methamphetamine or anything like that. I think he was just a pothead, so, he was just an old Vietnam veteran, and so whatever. And so yeah, uh but I s- so when I was with my dad, I lived with my dad. I moved to my dad's house in the 5th grade, lived there 5th and 6th and half of 7th grade, went back to my mom's house for half of 7th and all of 8th. Then I went back to my dad's in the 9th grade, and then went back to my mom's house
Oh, wow.
after the 9th grade and spent 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at my mom's house, and then went into the army.
Mm.
So I was back and forth. So when I was at my dad's house, it was kind of a middle class life
Yeah.
of, you know, the necessities being provided for me, food in the icebox and in the pantry, even though it was controlled very heavily.
Mm.
My stepmother used to like measure,
Oh my
bags
goodness.
and measure like the tea in the tea pitcher.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really wild. It was super controlling. So I went from
Wow.
that to my mom's house where I could do whatever I wanted because she was never around.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was
2 very different extremes.
2 very different extremes. And so like when I was at my dad's house, I went to a mega church basically. I mean, I would consider it a mega church now. Um but it was the biggest church in Arkansas at the time. I don't know if it still is or not. It was
Mm.
First Baptist Church of Springdale, Arkansas. It's called something else now, I think Pinnacle or something. But Mary Duggar from 19 Kids and Counting was my Sunday school teacher for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so from the 5th grade to the 9th grade off and on, plus I was there every summer. Even if I lived with my mom, I would still come every summer, and so she taught, that whole time.
Mhm.
So and she was in the bus ministry, so, uh, we had a guy who would come and pick us up on the bus and, take us to church, and, he spent hours and hours each Sunday, well, actually, all day Saturday, handing out flyers with gum in it, and then he would then come around Sunday morning for hours picking people up and then hours dropping people off. Plus, he was the preacher there for the bus ministry as well.
Yeah.
Him and his wife, and his name was Joe Dorman, and he was a really nice guy. And but when I was at my mom's house, I didn't go to church really. I did go to church with my best friend Terania in the 4th grade, and I did do an altar call where I went up and said the sinner's prayer and all of that. I was about 8, I believe, then. And then, but I didn't really go to church. And then eventually I would not go to church at all after the 9th grade.
Yeah.
So after the 9th grade, I quit going to church. I still felt drawn to God somehow, but I was trying to figure it out. And so I got involved in a little bit of witchcraft, Wicca, whatever my stepdad was doing.
Yeah, you had the influence.
Yeah. So my cousin and I, we kind of dabbled in it, and we realized that it is real. And that when you do spells, like for instance, a love spell, it'll work, but it works in a bad way usually. Something really bad happens. So, like, instead of somebody loving you, they become obsessed with you or something like that.
Yeah. Just like in the movies.
Yes, and it really does it really does work that way. So, at least in one experience for sure that we experienced. But yeah, so and my childhood was also dotted with a lot of traumatic events. So, I was born with a hole in my heart. I would quit breathing in the middle of the night. At 4 years old, I had open heart surgery. Shortly after that, I was at my grandma's house, and she's pretty much the one who took care of me, my dad's mother.
Frustrated with modern shows that push values you don't agree with? Sick of scrolling through content that's just not family friendly? Or maybe you've even searched what to watch with the kids tonight. You're not alone, and you're exactly who this podcast is for. Wholesome TV Picks helps families skip the stress and get back to what matters. Clean, uplifting shows and movies that bring families together without wasting time, so you'll be confident about what your family's watching. And it's completely free to listen. Every Wednesday, I share one carefully chosen recommendation in around 10 minutes. Each episode offers a short but thoughtful deep dive into the story, values, and streaming info, so you don't just know what to watch, but why it's worth watching. I focus on timeless content from the 1950s through the 90s, with some newer picks that still reflect solid values. I'm Jennifer, a homeschool mom of 3 and lifelong fan of classic TV. I grew up on the good stuff, shows that made you laugh, made you think, and brought families closer together. Everything I recommend is something I've personally watched again and again, and it's stood the test of time. You may be wondering, so what makes Wholesome TV Picks different from everything else out there? For one, this isn't a list of random titles or another pop culture review show. It's a trusted shortcut. And unlike most TV podcasts, no explicit language, no inappropriate chatter, and maybe most important, I'm doing this as a parent, just like you. Not a critic or influencer, just someone who cares deeply about what our kids and we are putting in front of our eyes. Don't know where to start? Head to wholesometvpicks.com/start here for listener favorites. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform, and start enjoying family time around the TV again.
You know, she was the one who made sure that the doctors actually figured out what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
But I was sleeping in her bed one night, and a drunk driver hit the house and crashed into my grandmother's bedroom and hit the bed that I was sleeping on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I remember waking up and being scared. I don't remember too much else about it. Like I was about 4, so um and then so another traumatic event was when I was trying to think. I think when I was in the 2nd grade, however old that makes me, I think 8, but I don't remember. I was walking home from school and I was walking with my friends and I got hit by a car and
Oh my word.
yeah, and I passed out and I was passed out for quite a while because they had enough time to run and get my mother and for my mother to, come back and be standing over me screaming, and I remember the car ride or the ambulance ride. I remember being very, very sick from a bad head injury because I hit my head when I got hit by the car. And so then another one of the traumatic events is I was in the 3rd grade and my mother was out partying and my cousin was there watching me and my brother and a family friend. And then we had another family friend who lived with us who had a child and he was my age. So we had me and him who were about the same age, but we were in different bedrooms. And then me and my brother and his friend who were about 4 at the time were in the same bed with me. And it was a water bed and it caught on fire. And uh, heating elements, when they catch on fire, water doesn't put out an electrical fire. Um, so I ended up in a burning waterbed with flames rolling over the ceiling and spread throughout the doorway. And luckily, my cousin's boyfriend happened to be over and he woke up to popping glass
Oh my gosh.
and ran in there and saved us. So he saved 4 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, so just even with those 3,
uh
you can see how God has shown up and kept you here. There's
yes.
definitely purpose in that.
Yes, that's something that I have definitely understood.
Yeah.
Not by my choice, it's all God keeping me here. So, and then I think right around the same time I was at my friend's house, which happens to be later on uh a woman, well, she was a kid then, but she ends up going missing in 1999. She ends up moving in that house, but before she moved into that house, I was friends with another family and another kid, and they had an RV. And so we all got in the RV and we were gonna go to Walmart and we were driving down my road, which happened to be a fairly busy road. And somebody backed into the RV. But right before that happened, I was sitting in the very back of the RV and something told me to get up. And I was just like, okay. So I got up and I sat in the middle seat up towards the front of the RV. And as soon as I sat down and clicked my belt, the whole back end of the RV was ripped off because
Wow.
a truck backed out into us as we were going about 35 miles an hour down the road.
Oh my. I can't even to just try to process this as an adult, like thinking back to all of these child like have there been any moments where you're like, "Oh, that's why that happened," or like have you ever seen any kind of resolution from some of these where you think back and you're like, "I'm alive because."
The only reason I believe I'm alive is to help other people, to be a mother to my children, to bring them into the world for whatever reason that is. I have no idea, but I believe that God um, has a plan and a purpose for them because
Yeah.
when I was pregnant with my son, I remember having a dream. And in the dream, God kept telling me to look up Joel 2:28, I believe is what it is. And in the dream, I could not find a Bible anywhere, and I just kept searching and searching and searching. And when I woke up, I popped up immediately, and I went and found the Bible. And let's see, I'll read you what it says. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. And that's what it says in Joel 2:28 as well. Yeah, so that's the dream that I had when I was pregnant with my son. So, but I've always felt like God had a reason for me to live, and I think it was to have my children, whatever they do or whatever their children do. I don't know.
I kind of wonder though, you're doing a podcast and you talk a lot about paranormal experiences and stuff. Like, I think maybe you are also meant to be an outlet for people who are extremely sensitive to the spiritual realm.
Maybe. And I didn't even have any sensitivity to the spiritual. Well, I mean, like I would have bad vibes when I would go somewhere or be scared of something that other people were not.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a feeling of bad people or bad places.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until my dad died, which my dad actually committed suicide. I was going to school for children's ministry, and we had just completed our first semester, my husband and I, because we both decided to go to school for ministry at the same time. He was going for preaching, and I was going for children's ministry. And my dad came to live with us for, I want to say, maybe 2 weeks. I don't have a lot of memory of this time.
Yeah.
Just the fact that when he showed up to our house, he was a completely different person, like completely different, like the way he dressed, the way he acted, talked, everything. It was just a completely different man. And so like the insecurities he had, those were no longer an issue. We ended up finding some weird stuff and hearing some weird stuff after his death, but he was a veteran and he called the veteran suicide hotline. They, I guess, made an appointment for him, but it was far off. So at that time, they weren't really as diligent as they are now.
Right.
So this would have been in 2010. And so, yeah, he shot himself in our house, in my 4-year-old son's bedroom, and in his bed. And so before that, I had never really had any paranormal experiences. I had a few weird experiences, maybe, but like serious paranormal experiences. After that happened, we had to move out of that house because it was very scary.
I mean, it would be just how would you ever forget?
You can't.
You
Yeah.
can't. You just can't be surrounded. Like it's
We had to get rid of most of my son's toys because of the mess.
Yep.
The bullet actually went through the wall and went into my daughter's bedroom, ricocheted off of her window, and then landed in her bed and like went into her mattress or whatever.
Oh my word.
Yeah. And my daughter is a sleepwalker, and she also had moved her bed like a week before. And had she kept it in the same area, she may have been actually hit. So,
wow.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, we had to move out of that house, and we ended up moving on a college campus for a little while. That was interesting with the kids in a college campus.
I can not even imagine.
Yeah, my kids definitely made themselves at home in college. It was fun. And then so my brother ended up dying in 2013 from cancer, from sarcoma. My mother ended up dying in 2015 from a heart issue that I was actually born with, and they never fixed hers. So all I have is my step brother and step sisters, but I call them my brother and my sisters. And I have another sister who is Not technically my stepsister, but my stepdad's kids have a sister who is Korean and Black, and she lived with us, so I call her my sister as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so two of my sisters were here a couple of months ago, so that was really great to see them. But yeah, I've just had a lot of scary stuff happen and a lot of paranormal stuff happen um, that had never happened before.
Yeah. So how did you work through so where did you, when you look back, where do you see God in some of this stuff? So like, you just, one example I'm seeing is, man, like Laura could have been hurt
Yeah.
in that horrible traumatic event. And
hmm
then how did you kind of um come out of it? Like how hard of, like, what was it like trying to recover from that?
Yeah, so like I said, my dad died in 2010, my brother died in 2013, in 2015 my mom died. Plus there were like 11 people who died within that time period. Of family and stuff like that. And so I had a lot of death.
Yeah.
And then I ended up being bedbound for 6.5 years, 26 days a month from chronic debilitating migraines from some bulging discs in my neck from when I went in the army and fell and broke my back in 3 places, messed up my neck, got a
Yeah,
lot
so
of
we
problems.
missed that part of your testimony.
Yeah.
So that was the part where you met Charles, right?
Yes, yeah, so, I went into the Army to partially get out of Oklahoma, and then also because I wanted to actually go in the military and become, an MP. Now, when I went to MEPS, they did not have any, openings as far as or at least that's what they told me, who knows how it really was, but they said that they had no openings, but that I had scored really high and I could have picked whatever I wanted.
Mhm.
But so I ended up getting aviation operations specialist or a 93 Papa. And I went to basic training and I was there for about almost 7 weeks. There were a couple of days shy of my 7th week and I fell 15 feet and broke my back. So I got put in a med hold, and it was this really awful experience where we had to sit or stand in formation all day long.
Wow.
It was not rehab at all. We then we stood in formation for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at least 2 hours or 3 hours a day. And then we couldn't read books, we couldn't read magazines, couldn't listen to music, couldn't watch TV, nothing like that. So it was just, hanging out and
Mm.
whatever. You know, uh, Sometimes I laugh at my cousin because she's incarcerated for 25 years and it's more of a camp than I
Right.
experienced in the army. So we laugh about that sometimes because she'll tell me some stuff and I'm like, girl, that's way better than we had it. So I ended up being in that med hold. I was in the army for a year, and but I did meet my husband in the med hold, Charles. He is 6'6", and when I saw him walking towards me, I was like, "Dang,
What a dreamboat.
yeah." So he ended up being my platoon leader, and I ended up after he left, we started dating, and then after he left, I actually went into office work there in the med hold and was in processing and out processing soldiers and making sure everybody had beds and doing your analysis and logging everything into the computer, basically being the mom
Right.
of the unit. And yeah, so but all through that, I had a yearning for God and a desire for God, but I didn't really act on it
Yeah.
until we had my daughter. And once we had our daughter, my husband and I decided, you know what? We want her to know about Jesus, but we want her to make her choice as to what she believes about Jesus. Now that's come
Right.
to bite us in the butt now because she doesn't go to church or anything like that. But you know what it is. It's good though because she's got to find her own way, and that's what we want for her. So I'm not
Yeah.
pushing it on her because it's not productive to do that. Um, my son's not going either. He's 20, she's 25. I raised them up in the way they should go. We read the Bible every night. Um, Proverbs was really one of the places that we read the most, just trying to teach my children wisdom and honor and they do have the wisdom and the honor and all of that. It's just they just have been hurt so badly by the church
Mhm.
or just when I was sick for those 6.5 years, my husband quit going to church
Yeah.
and because he was pouting and he'll tell you that. And yeah, so it's been a rough, long road, but once I came out of that fog and we moved to Missouri, I started desiring to go back to church again.
Yeah.
I'd been listening to the Bible and I'd been, because I would listen to audiobooks and podcasts and all kinds of things. So I wasn't just being stagnant.
Right.
Um, so So I went from 7.5 years of school for children's ministry and teaching kids in children's ministry and, interning at big churches and doing lots and lots and lots of stuff. And um, now I'm trying to get back to where God wants me to be. I'm not sure if it's children's ministry or youth ministry anymore
Yeah.
because I feel like I need to start focusing in on the adults who seem to have a hard time um, being kind and loving.
Yeah. You know, I when I hear your story, I first of all I think about, there's a lot of parents out there that are going through what you're going through,
hmm
wishing your kids would be in a church.
hmm
Um, and I think that maybe that's something you can speak to here. How do you handle it? What do? Do you just pray a lot or?
Pray a lot. Try to be a good example. Just in the way that I talk about people, treat people. The way I give when nobody's looking except for them because they're with me or whatever,
Yeah.
but we don't make it like a big deal or anything. We just do it.
Yeah.
So my kids they've got really great hearts. It's just, it's going to have to take something outside of me and my husband's influence to get them back into church.
Yeah. And honestly, when I was probably between the ages of 20 and 25, I didn't make church a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't understand the value of it. Even and your children were probably raised in a little bit different style of home than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But we both grew up in Christian homes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think sometimes that's just how it has to work for our testimony to be built.
Yep. And
That's the hardest part to accept, though.
yeah, I've got to let them be them and come to it on their own. There's any hounding or fussing or nitpicking about it is just gonna turn them off.
Yeah, so you've accepted like God's already got this under control. I
Mhm.
don't need to try to control it too.
Yep. Yep.
I think it's really
Yeah,
healthy.
and I can't worry about things. That was one thing I used to worry, 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 and one day I just gave it to God. I took it to the foot at the cross and I left it there and I haven't picked it up because worrying is going to do nothing for me except for make me anxious and upset and ruin my mental health. And there's nothing I can do to change anything. So I guess probably growing up in such a chaotic situation also has helped me to navigate not worrying, because my childhood was so unstable
Yeah.
that I couldn't depend on any one thing to always be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You kind of grew up in a situation that was out of control. So,
so why try
Yeah.
to take control when honestly nothing is in my control?
yeah, that's a really cool thing that you can just trust God with that. I wonder if some of it's like a phase of parenting, for me at least, because I'm still in the worry phase. So I'll go ahead and wrap myself out on this one. I sent a message. Amber is in our small group. And I just want to say how grateful, first of all, right off the bat, like I am for this group of ladies. Because a year ago, we had started this group, but it wasn't quite the same as it is now. And, I feel like once a day or regularly we will text in this group.
Yeah.
And it's all of us sharing either prayer concerns or different things. But my son, bless his little heart, I woke up this morning and he was out there being suspicious by his backpack. And I'm like, "Hey bud, what you doing?" And as any 5-year-old would, he gave me some very ambiguous answer. And I said, we're just gonna check this stuff. We're gonna check the backpack. And I found a knife. It was a Pioneer Woman knife, I think made for cutting up fruit, but it's not like a huge knife, a little bit bigger than a paring knife, but like it had the little plastic cover on it. So he was being safe.
I am good. I'm glad to hear that.
But I was so scared. I was freaking out. Like my brain immediately went to, oh no, I'm going to be visiting him in prison in 20 years. Oh, and I'm going to be the mom on the documentary that's saying he was so normal.
And she's like, do you guys know who Jeffrey Dahmer is?
Okay, so I'm a little dramatic. Okay, jumping to conclusions is a skill that I have very well developed.
Sounds
Amber.
like it. I was like, dang.
So no, but for real, like that's where my brain went to. But this is why I think it's so important to have people in your corner. And I've always had people in my corner, don't get me wrong, but in this case, and this is sort of why I started this podcast, is that I have people in my corner who are trying to raise their kids the same way that I'm trying to raise mine. With the same emphasis and things like that, and people like you who have raised your kids, and maybe you're still kind of raising them, but they're really like adults.
They're still here,
So I think that's so cool and so amazing. But your trust and faith in God is something that's really admirable.
Well, I think going through all of the weird stuff, and I haven't even, I've been in 2 burning water beds.
What?
Yeah, 2 water beds caught on fire while I was sleeping in them.
Do you just avoid those from now on?
Yeah, my husband actually had a water bed when we first met. And yeah, I was like, nope, not happening.
You said that's gonna have to go.
Yeah, so if anything, I should be scared of beds probably, because the drunk driver, then the 2 burning water beds.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah. So I've had a lot of weird things happen. So I just have to trust and hope for the best, because honestly, I'm not in control. And because I know that I give God control.
That's really great.
Yeah, but I don't expect everybody to be there, because not everybody has had to grow up as fast as I did, or experience the things that I have, or the things that I have seen other people go through.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about this on Amber's podcast. I had the privilege to
be interviewed by Amber
Yes.
just before this. And we were talking about how your testimony, the reason that no testimony is the same is because you are meant to testify to different people.
Mhm.
And so I had admitted that I felt like I had some shame about the fact that I don't have all of these big traumatic events. Again, God, I'm not asking for it. But like Amber and I were just commiserating over the fact that like, that just means that I'm not supposed to necessarily speak to those people. And I think this podcast is where I'm supposed to be speaking.
Yeah, but I think that eventually God will move you into different territories to where
yeah.
you have to get out of your comfort zone. Because if you do not get out of your comfort zone, you're never going to learn what you can and can't do.
Absolutely. And this is a little in my comfort zone in that I know how to do a podcast, but when it comes to testifying, that is really out of my comfort zone. There is because it's just not a thing that we did growing up. I didn't even know what a testimony was until like a year ago. And I'm being super genuine about that.
I could see that.
So this is a little bit of both. It's towing the line. But I'm hoping that by trying to encourage and support this audience, that I'm going to be able to I'm definitely going to be getting out of that comfort zone for sure. And there's this like imposter syndrome, right? I don't know if you experienced this with your podcast.
Well, yeah, I have it because I'm on military broadcast radio, and I was only in the Army for a year. So, and I didn't finish basic training. So for a long time, I felt really bad about that.
Yeah.
But the veterans that I run into at the VA and the veterans that I run into on MBR, for the most part, people, consider me a veteran because I signed on the dotted line. I went through the training as best as I could and got hurt, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Right.
And now I am giving back to veterans by teaching them how to podcast and by teaching them how to do what I do so that they can start getting out of their head and just unburdening themselves.
There's so much purpose in just that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I
shouldn't even say like just that. That's a huge deal. I think our veterans need more support like that in our country. But I think
I consider it a ministry.
It absolutely is. That's kind of what I was thinking. And it's just that could be that it's a part of your ministry. That's part of what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't talk to them about God or, if something happens, I'll say, I'll pray for you or praise God, or whatever. But
Right.
I don't, I don't sling my faith around because we have people of different faiths and agnostics and whatever, or atheists.
Right.
I'm not sure, so all kinds of different spectrums. And I try really hard not to insert that. Now, there has been a couple of instances where I had to, step up and say, that's a little odd, but for the most part, I just kind of let my actions speak for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's such a big deal in parenting. That's something that I am still trying to get a handle on. And I know that's why God starts you with a baby.
Right.
Like, he's like, I got to start you off small and we're going to give you a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And currently we're at okay, don't scream. Don't scream. Just say, why is that? Like, oh, what led to this situation, child of mine? Like it's taking a lot more self-control than my fruit has grown yet. So I know that I need to stop praying about that because God just sort of keeps putting me in situations where I have to practice my self-control.
Yeah,
but
just don't ask for patience.
Yeah, I've made that mistake plenty of times already, Amber. So So you do have kind of a crazy story, and
Mhm.
really we've just touched the surface of
Yes,
a lot
very
of it.
scratched.
And so sometime maybe I'll have you on and we'll talk a little bit deeper
Okay, yeah.
about some of your testimony. But I think what I want to do is just ask you, like, out of everything that you've been through, how did God redeem it?
So, just giving me my amazing husband.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I have an amazing husband and amazing children, an amazing life, We my husband is on disability, I'm on disability. I mean, we went from him being you know, asked by Fiji Water and different water companies to go run their facilities in Fiji and different things like that. I mean, my husband has made billions of dollars for people, and but we've never really had much, and it's been awesome actually to see how the little bit that God gave us, we were able to raise a family and be satisfied and content with what we had.
You always had enough.
We always had enough, and we don't have credit. I mean, we have one credit card now, and that's only, just because in case,
Hmm.
it's paid off. We we pay for everything in cash. We don't get loans and things like that. Um, but we've never been rich or
Yeah.
never, we've always been on the bare minimum, but God's always provided. And there's been so many times where, we'll go to the mailbox and there's a check or,
Mhm.
or something gets deposited in the bank account or something great will happen that's just out of nowhere. And so it makes up for all of the crappy things that have happened in my life.
They always say, like, the reason that God just tells you what to do is because he doesn't have to tell you how, because it doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
Like, and so I always have the problem with, I'm like, okay, but God, like, I hear you. I tell you, you're telling me to do the thing. How are you gonna do it? And I feel like the reason he never answers me is because, like, that's not your business. Sit down.
Watch and see.
For real. For real. So that's really amazing. So I ask all my guests at the end what their verse to live by is, or what their favorite scripture is.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to ask you that same question, because I think that the listeners, if you're just getting into your Bible, or if you're a seasoned Christian and you're still trying to raise your kids, I think that these scriptures, if they bring life to other people, because God's word is living and true, it will continue to bring life. And so
Mhm.
what brings life to you may also inspire somebody else in a way that they had never heard that verse before.
Yeah, so one that I try to always live by is John 13:34 through 35. This is the NIV version. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another.
Mm.
I think too many times we forget about love. And so I have that base up there.
Mm.
Love, let us love one another, for love is of God. 1 John 4:7.
Mm.
Because those who do not know love do not know God.
Yeah. Well, and it's that adage for parents: what more is caught than taught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I think that you definitely lead with love.
I
And I
try
see
to.
it. I see it because, look, it's not always easy to serve, especially like when you're new at a church or things
Mm-hmm.
like that, because maybe you don't always feel loved back.
Mm-hmm.
And
I hardly ever do. honestly. I have very rarely been rewarded with good friendship within the church.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how God keeps me more hanging out with the lost souls than, I don't know why, but God's just got me there, and I don't preach to them. I just love them.
Which is kind of preaching to him in like the most gentle, you know, subtle way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if they ever have questions about Christianity, they're probably going to come to you and
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah. And that
So,
has happened, but yeah, it's just, that's where God's got me. I don't know why, but a lot of times, yeah, I do feel very alienated in the church, and I feel like
mm,
I'm not a part of uh, the quote unquote body of believers sometimes because I'm so different than everybody else. Because
yeah,
I've been through so much, and my husband has been through so much that I think sometimes people don't know how to take us or don't believe us,
yeah,
honestly, but it's okay. When they hang out with us and actually get to know us, they realize that it's true, but not a lot of people actually try that. But so James 1:2,
hmm,
consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is a double-minded and unstable in all they do.
mm,
So my husband and I, we realized that when we stopped considering the bad things that we were going through pure joy is when he quit going to church because he was complaining about me being sick, and um, he wasn't joyful about me
right,
being sick and in bed.
right.
He wasn't joyful being in the crap hole that we were living in, excuse my language, but it was a horrible situation because it was a rental property that my husband's parents owned, and I could
Yeah.
tell you some stories about that place.
Hmm.
But yeah, but when my brother died in 2013, before we moved there, um, I think that's when we quit considering everything pure joy, because my brother was such a good soul and such a good
Mm,
person that it was hard to consider that joy.
yeah. It's so hard. We lost my Uncle Kenny to cancer, and
Mhm.
he was also a really good person. It was one of those moments when it happened that you're just like, why am I still here? And he's
Mhm.
not, and the only thing that made me feel a little bit better about it was like, God just wanted to hang out with him too.
Yeah.
It was like, Psh, they've had enough of you.
Mhm.
They don't deserve you anymore. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the thing that helped me through my brother's funeral and seeing him really sick, um, he was actually supposed to stay with us, and then my family talked him into going back to Oklahoma, and he wasn't taken care of properly, and it was a really bad situation. I was really, really upset.
Mm.
But the one thing I do know is that had my brother been around longer, his life but would have been way worse, because he had a very I'm just going to say it, an evil wife.
Yeah.
And I can say that because of the things that she did and the things that I've seen. Um And so I really, truly believe that God spared my brother from going through way worse,
Yeah.
because it could have really gotten way worse.
Wow. Well, on that note, I really appreciate you coming on my podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on mine.
Yeah. So Amber, where can my listeners find you?
Yes, I am Into the Weeds podcast on Military Broadcast Radio. I talk about pretty much whatever interests me, but then I also talk about missing people like Chanda Lore Sanders and Michelle Crawford. And then I talk about cold cases like Athena Hogan and Jelani Day and Teron Evans Jr. And then I also went down a rabbit hole with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. My cousin is incarcerated for 25 years in the same prison that Gypsy was in. And we started praying for her. We do a Bible study every week. And she's changing that prison from the inside out. But
Wow.
I went down a rabbit hole, and now I am the person putting out all of the factual information on her case that's showing that she's a scam artist.
Oh,
And so we're just trying to change the media narrative now so that we don't have somebody influencing our young people who murdered their mother.
yeah. Yeah. Decent and worthy cause.
Yeah, and I fell down that rabbit hole because of my cousin. So and God got me there by praying for this woman first. So it just happened to be that red flags started flying, and I went
Wow.
and did the research. So
Well, I hope that some of you guys will go give Amber a listen. What platforms can they find you on?
they can find me on YouTube, which I'm the most active. If you see a Bigfoot and a spaceship and Into the Weeds podcast, that's me. I'm not the cannabis one, although, that's fine. So yeah, if you see a Bigfoot, that's me. And I've got a episode on there. It's called My Christian Paranormal Experience.
Oh, I'll have to give that one a listen. I haven't found that one yet. So.
Yeah, it's actually my first live stream. So if you go all the way down to the very first live stream, that is what I chose to talk about because they forced me to do a live stream. And I was like, I don't know what to talk about. And God told me to talk about that. So that's what I did.
Wow, that's really cool. Thanks for being on my podcast, Amber.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Have a blessed evening, everybody, and go out and do something good to change the world for the better.
Thank you for listening to Miracles in the Madness. I hope today's episode encouraged you and reminded you that even in the chaos, God is faithful. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who might need encouragement. You can also visit my blog at ashtonkiever.com for more stories, scripture, and resources to help you walk in faith every single day.